No. All right, welcome back, everyone. March 2nd, just a few days away from March 5th, aka Mars Day. We're red on Sunday. I've been doing a hackathon recently. It's been fun. Been with OpenAI. We're doing I think, a fairly interesting project. But more on that at the next SacPy. So welcome back, SacPy, March 2nd, 2023. We are in our third year of running this, Robert, something like that. We started January 2020. I like the online format. I keep saying we'll do the in-person, but supposedly it's still a pandemic. I keep hearing about COVID. Back before we were running things, Josh Miller was running it. Thanks for getting us started, Josh. Hope you come back. Code of conduct. Well, I don't expect anyone here is going to be doing any Zoom bombing today, so I'm not going to read that one verbatim. I would say, well, I actually do know Robert in person, but pretty much I feel like I know everyone else, so I'm not too worried about it. Yeah, anyone watching YouTube, want to jump in on the thing? Just look at the description. It'll be there. But yeah, those QR codes should work. Maybe not at some point in the future, but whatever. Yeah, got a bunch of socials. Got some new stuff. This is not that new, but I mean, 30 subscribers is not the most impressive YouTube channel. So hopefully I'll start tracking with the meetup group, which is nearly at 1,400. We also got a new thing. Oh no. All right, get out of here. Wait, no, I think I can just turn off my camera. Oh, yeah, there we go. Cool. Yeah, we got a LinkedIn group. Goal is eventually to put together like a jobs board. Maybe any revenue we can get off that, we can feed into beefing up the events. Maybe add like an educational track or something. But yeah, if you haven't gotten on there, jump on LinkedIn. I'll add you up. All right, and runs on now. All right, where's the best view for looking at side by sides? All right, everyone, for a second, try to look intelligent. All right, 1, 2, 3. Oh yeah, good twinkles. Yeah, that brings the IQ up, man. Yeah, that's okay. All right. Well, today we got a guest who has spoken in the past, right, Jim? I think
yeah.
You spoke at least once during my tenure. I seem to recall seeing you in a past presentation as well. So thanks for coming back and showing us all what you've been working on. You're still over at the Agile Cloud Institute, and today's the Agile Cloud Manager. Slavin, I'm going to pass the sharing on over to you.
I'm just setting up to share my screen. And share the whole screen. There we go. And this is a tool that's a high-level tool. And I want to make this a conversational experience for everybody. And part of that is setting things up so that we're real efficient, so we've got time to talk. Before I go into those slides that I showed you, there's a PowerPoint there. There's a demo. And I'll explain what's happening with the demo while we go through, but it takes about half an hour to run the demo. The time depends on things that are going on in the underlying cloud providers or what's going on in GitHub. This doesn't have to run in GitHub. This can run in any pipeline tool, but we've got GitHub here set up as, as a way to do it. And I'm just gonna go up because this is the fastest way to get things running and point and click. And what we're doing here is we're creating infrastructure in 2 different clouds with 4 different types of tools. in 2 different operating systems. And so somehow that works out to 8 different demos that run in parallel. And they're reaching out and they're creating a bunch of stuff, and then they're going to run. And when they're done running, it'll show us, and that probably take about half an hour. And the point here is that this tool can make it easy to work with infrastructure so that it becomes as easy as just pointing and clicking. And that's really, I think, what we want. If we're developers, we want to make sure that we don't have to waste a lot of time on redundant infrastructure engineering. And from a business standpoint, there's just a lot of money to be saved from doing this correct, doing this more efficiently. And there's a lot of money to be made with reinvesting all the money that's saved into more engineering projects to do more interesting things that are often beyond the scope of what a company can do, because there's only so much money floating around. And if you can free up 10% or 20% of your engineering resources, suddenly you can do a lot more. So I'm just going to show you, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 8. Sorry, pardon my reach. You get up here, see them all on the same screen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. So I'll leave this alone for now, and I'll come back to that later when they're all done. This is a discussion. It's interactive. I'll take you through some slides. There are 8 slides, and they summarize the architecture and the business case for a tool that I've been working on for a really long time. This is iterated in different formats over many years. Before it even turned into an app about 5 years ago, there was a period of some years where I was just going through and researching all the different tools that are available for Agile management, Agile infrastructure management, and finding the best practices of putting those tools together in chains. And that emerged into an app at one point in time. I was explaining this to someone I know who runs open source projects for his company. And he said, Jimmy, you got to put all this in an app. So this started to generate maybe 5 years ago. And it's evolved a lot. So I'll take you through 8 slides, and at various points, hope to ask, to stop and ask where everybody's at and what people are thinking. But let's focus maybe 1 slide at a time, or 2 or 3 slides at a time. The problem that this ultimately focuses on is that in a company, you might have multiple product groups, or even if you've got a small number of engineers, 3 to 5 engineers, you're working on multiple different things. And every different thing that you're working on might have redundant engineering costs. And that's going to show up in a few different ways. It's going to show up in terms of redundant definitions of storage, redundant definitions of databases, redundant pipeline logic, all sorts of things that are the building blocks of any product you might be producing are usually managed in a redundant way, where every product has its own definition of each type of storage. Every product has its own definition of each type of database. Every product has its own pipeline logic. And those things cost a lot of money to develop in a redundant way, and they cost a lot of money to maintain in a redundant way. And it works all the way through the enterprise in that the projects that get defined to support this end up being redundant. So if you look at the project portfolio for a whole company, you might be able to see that there are a substantial number of projects that could be shrunk down into a smaller number of projects. And that's the problem definition. And so we've got implications for the company, which is that you get lost corporate revenue due to a lot of use cases that are left unaddressed. And that happens often because systems are not integrated as well as they could be. And that boils down to the customer experience being diminished. I was discussing this a few days ago with another meetup organizer, and he was giving an example at his company where they've got multiple products, and for every different product, the customer has to go through the same exact or very similar sign-up process where the customer has to provide the same exact information again and again and again each time they sign up for each new product. And that drastically reduces the number of customers who are willing to go through the process to sign up for each product. And the reason the customers have that awful experience is that the systems aren't integrated well enough to be able to migrate all the relevant information to each product onboarding process. And that costs the company money because it's a lot more profitable for if every customer has 2 or 3 products that they're purchasing instead of just purchasing one. So that's kind of an example of some implications for the company. And the idea of this tool, it's a free to use tool. And the idea is it has several benefits to approach this problem definition and these implications. And the benefits include reduced engineering costs, because it becomes possible using this tool to more easily have fewer reusable templates and to have less pipeline code. And it becomes possible to have substantially reduced operations costs due to easier deployments and due to easier maintenance. And that can also result in reduced cloud provider costs if you're able to, for example, fail over to another cloud provider all of your workloads and then fail back whenever you want, which this tool makes it becomes a lot easier to do with this tool. Then you're in a much stronger bargaining position, more so if you're a bigger company. But even if you're a smaller company and you're not necessarily getting huge cost savings, you might get much better customer support from a cloud provider who knows that you can easily roll your systems over to their competitor. And this is the problem definition. And at this level, before we get into context and architecture and that kind of stuff, and then some more detailed technical stuff, does anyone have any questions or comments?
Yeah, actually, I mean, I can see where this could be a huge problem, and I guess as a corporation scales, this could be in any possible silo of work. So, do you have any anecdotes of, I don't know, without naming names, like, I don't know, how many overlaps you've found in an organization? Like, what was the most egregious? What's the most common? That sort of thing.
I could give you an example of something that I don't know the correct words, so I'll just smile and you can think of some salty words. But I guess what I'm trying to say is one example is a particular company. We were working architecting a storage solution, and it's a very expensive, high-level enterprise-grade storage solution with one of these tools. You know, they're maybe 4 or 5 high-level enterprise-grade storage solutions that are multi-platform storage, and the client had we were solving a problem where there had just been a disaster the year before that we were remediating by implementing this world-class storage tool. And there was a situation where actually the company had at least 10 different implementations of this incredibly expensive high-level enterprise-grade storage system, and none of them were software defined. So there was a lot of manual work done in defining how the storage system was going to be implemented, and then in defining the process for deploying it and defining the process for deploying fixes and upgrades to it. And that happened literally more than 10 times in parallel at the same time, more than 10 channels. And it's incredibly expensive. And all of that with this tool, I believe, could be reduced down to a single implementation, or that's the objective, where you're able to take any tool that you might be using and deploy one implementation and then parameterize it so that it behaves differently when different data, different parameters are sent into it, so it can be used by different groups, and it would cost a lot less money and help an enterprise. And that's one example I can think of off the top of my head.
Wow. So is that the sort of thing that you discover once your team is engaged with them, or is that something maybe they discover on like an accounting level when they're saying like, okay, why is our AWS bill so insane, or MongoDB or whatever?
I noticed that everybody I work with is an incredibly intelligent person, and we're all starting in situations where we've all got these great ideas about how to fix things, and we're all inheriting what seems like a mess. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that I feel the better way of dealing with it is to help the client see that it's their idea. And there's just
Nice.
people often feel lost in an enterprise, is what I'm trying to say. What were you going to say, Woody?
Oh, yeah, it's always best to help people to realize that it was their idea to do what you are offering. Certainly.
I like to start sometimes when I think about a problem by asking where I am. And you just made maybe a good segue, or a great segue to this thing. And I've shown, I think, this slide before, but this helps me. I spent some time when I was in my 20s just reading a lot of stuff about all the books that I bought off Amazon about all the different ways of approaching ERP. And these kind of concepts emerged from that. And the point, I guess, what you were just mentioning that crosses my mind is someone's in an enterprise and we're all starting in an imperfect state, and we've all got these really tough deadlines. And so there's a limit to what we can accomplish in each iteration or each quarter or each year. And it's never going to be perfect. And it helps me to look at this and think about where we are if we're working in IT. And I've numbered these to kind of guide a person's eyes across the screen of something that's kind of busy, where hopefully all of us are thinking about serving the customer first. And hopefully all of us realize that we've got jobs if the customer's satisfied. So if we think that the way the customer lives in the world and the way they interact with our company is through some processes, and those processes have steps, and for every step in their process, they're hitting up a touch point in our organization, which is 2 over here. And these touch points bounce back into our IT buckets. Every system is a collection of apps, a collection of services, apps that are delivered as services. And we can organize every system into a bucket, so that you might have 8 major buckets in an enterprise. And they all center around an integration layer that makes all of the different buckets, different types of systems and services and apps talk with each other. And the idea is that these external touch points from customers feed through our enterprise architecture with these buckets of tools that then reach into these internal touch points, and every human being inside our company is interacting through business processes inside our company through these touch points that also hit these same systems. And that just it brings down into this idea over in 3 that our relationships and even our company as a whole is defined by these touch points. And the point that we're kind of leading into is there's this free to use tool that enables faster upgrades throughout this whole chain of relationships. And the last thing about this is that the headline up here, that the workflows that are defined, they're either going to enable the chain of relationships through the company, or they're going to block it if they're brittle. And maybe the place to take another break is after the second slide, which is the same thing. But I added 2 things in this one. I'm asking your eyes to go to 1 over here, which is the dashed red lines that you see on the same slide from the same image from the last slide. They represent locations where you might need to do upgrades if you have to change something for a customer. So there might be a customer process that you identify the customer experience. And maybe this is, for example, the customer is signing up for a second product. They already bought one from you. You want them to buy a second product. And maybe that's what it is. But some minor change of a particular step that needs to change, and that's going to affect a particular touch point. But changing that in order to satisfy the customer might require upgrades to systems all over your enterprise architecture. And that might reach back into lots of different internal touch points. And it can be a big mess to do a lot of work across a whole organization to be able to deliver a change very quickly that seems small to the customer, but it's huge in terms of its implications across the enterprise. And that brings us to here. This free tool is intended to simplify this complexity by making it easier to model these systems and these buckets of systems in terms of the value that they create for the company. And it's intended to help simplify deployments. It's intended to make it easier to reduce the number of templates by reusing them, and to reduce the amount of engineering work. And there are 8 slides. We just went through 3, and let me just take a look at this. Yes, the one after this one actually has a big theme change. So maybe the place again to drop is after this one. This just takes you through another view that's more human-centered, that shows you human beings. And again, we've got these numbers where we start looking at the customer, because that hopefully is what we all are caring about. We want to satisfy the customer because the customer's happiness brings all of us jobs. And the customer's hitting us up through the different systems that the customer hits. Like the customer might hit the public and customer website or mobile site, and they might hit up human beings in the sales organization or human beings in the service organization. And then you've got all these other people in these systems that are also interacting, and they might not talk to the customer directly, but they're talking to implications of the customer through the systems that relate to the parts of the business processes that they work with. And the point here, if we move over to 3, is that in most companies, we've got stacks that deliver each one of these systems in each one of these buckets. And these stacks can be really brittle in that the pipeline code can be really redundant, the system definitions can be redundant, the amount of engineering required can be excessive. And so it can become very difficult to make changes across. And that leads us to the 4th place here on this particular slide, which is that the intention is to reorganize all the stacks in these collections of systems into appliances that are portable, in the sense that they can be relocated to any cloud, or they can be relocated to any different on-prem or any different edge. And then that just takes us to the 5th point here of the simplicity of an appliance can make it a lot easier for the company to evolve. To get into the things in the last slide where you see one change for a customer might require changes to 6 or 7 different systems across the enterprise. The next stuff you'll see is a lot more technical types of slides. And before we get into the technical level, while we're still at the business level, does anyone have any questions or comments about this?
Yeah, so you said this was within the space of ERP primarily, so enterprise resource planning. So what sorts of ERP software are you working with? Oracle, I guess, probably many others.
That's a good question. When I was doing the research that brought these kind of ideas up earlier in my career, I was just really interested. I would go to these trade shows, and there was something that I was just kind of fascinated by at the time, which was enterprise relationship management. And the idea was, how do you take your CRM tools and link from the CRM all the way back into your supply chain management? And that has to do with all of these apps together, and not necessarily a particular ERP tool. And it's just my interest more so than any particular way that anything's better. But
sure, I guess I'm coming at it from the like appification of everything era. So yeah, that makes sense that it's more a little loosely federated back then. Just doing some cursory searching on the side, I'm seeing there's a whole bunch of different ways you can go about it. Obviously, cloud is very popular these days, but ERP back in the day was probably something run off some on-premises mainframe or some federation of
And
devices.
and now what we've got is the integration layer. I actually don't really work much with ERP, but I do work with integration layers that are a bunch of microservices. And you know that there are tools for managing that, like MuleSoft and whatnot, where it's become so complex that most companies can't handle putting up their own infrastructure. And the idea of a tool like this is to have it be something in between. The situation where it's just too complex for most companies, to making it something that's a lot easier for the company because they're reusing the things that they do. And for me, I don't really necessarily work with ERP as much as the research about that at some point in time was what inspired some of these thoughts. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, sure. So MuleSoft, you're kind of coming after that area of the market.
Yeah, and I think those things are great, but I think there's somewhere in between where you're able to have a variety of different things that you're orchestrating, and some of it might be Kubernetes implementations, and some of it might be infrastructure as a service, where you're spinning up your own networks that serve up your own collections of microservices, and you're actually able to do it without being this huge enterprise because you're able to reduce the amount of complexity involved. And you can kind of see if we go from business level and that level of architecture down into the application architecture of this particular tool. And where this fits in is in the deployment process. And we step up in one over here, where people generally use tools that are pipelines. A lot of my clients will use Azure DevOps. Some people will use Bamboo. A lot of people use Jenkins. Some people use GitHub Actions. The demo I've got running is in GitHub. But the idea for this tool is you can use any pipeline tool, and a pipeline tool is going to spin up an agent. And what the pipeline does is it has these command line interface commands, workflow commands, and the agents go and run the Agile Cloud Manager in the agent, so it can receive the command line interface, the CLI commands, from whatever pipeline tool it is. And that's going to send information out into these automation algorithms that are where you replace all the pipeline code. And these automation algorithms basically are accessed by these 6 or so CLI commands that each have an on-off switch, so maybe 10 or so. And then they hit up this domain-specific language over in 2B, where you're able to have some simple templates where we've got defined, and the demos are hitting up these system templates written in our domain-specific language. And then those are summarized in these appliance templates. There'll be an acm.yaml file that might be 3 or 4 lines of code that are basically listing the system templates and where to find them. So the appliance template is super simple. The system's configuration files are relatively simple. And then that information gets sent over to what a company already has over here in 2C, which is templates. That might be Terraform modules, or CloudFormation templates, or Packer templates, or ARM templates, or all sorts of other things. And each of these things is going to reach back into your configuration tools, like your PowerShell scripts, or your Bash scripts, or your Python scripts, or Ansible playbooks, or Chef cookbooks, or whatever they are. And what this tool also provides is ability to develop your own custom controllers. 2 of the demos running right now are custom controller demos, and they enable you to put your own business logic in there that enable you to control any other tool. So it's not just these 4 that we've got controllers for, it's any tool. And with tools like Terraform and Packer, you're able to run any cloud and most on-premise as well. And the idea is this comes back to these automation algorithms, which then push out this resulting cloud appliance, and they do it with a lot less work because you've eliminated a lot of the pipeline code over here in 2A, and you've eliminated a lot of the redundant templates over here in 2C, and you've been able to do that by defining these very high-level objects here over in 2B, which is the domain-specific language. And if we look at this, it might be useful to hit a few slides at a time. If we look at this, you can see this is these things we've been discussing. At level 1, up on the top, you've got where the command line interface works. And this is this enterprise architecture, your collection of types of systems in these different buckets that are able to become appliances. And then you can move within each one of those appliances to the appliance view. And C2 here is where these acm.yaml files I showed you are located. And 3 is where the system templates are located. So you might have a storage template for each type of storage. Like if you've got blob storage, you might have a storage template for blob storage that gets reused across all your different appliances. You might have a template for file storages for work groups. You might have a template for application level storages for high transaction web applications. And there's 3 examples. You might have other different types of storage, and each one might get their own template, but it's in one place and reused across the company. And same thing, every implementation of your MongoDB might be run through a single template. Same thing with SQL Server, might be run through one template, or MySQL, or whichever tools, whichever database you're using. And the same for these different types of services like messaging queues and microservices and front-end apps and other types of things. And that's level 3. And the domain-specific language is referring to levels 2 and 3. And then level 4 are the templates you've already got, which means that you don't have to change anything you're currently doing. You still use your Terraform, you still use your Packer, or your CloudFormation, or your ARM templates, or whatever else you're using, but you're able to migrate into fewer and fewer of them. And this is how you take where you are now and you build it up into the enterprise level. And I can show, you see there's 2 more slides, and then the last one points to some other things. It points to is a repetition, which slide we already did. But before we get to the last 2 slides, does anyone have any questions or comments about this layer?
It sounds like you have a whole boatload of integrations there with various aspects. How long does it take you to onboard a new, I don't know, say storage cloud service or something like that?
Well, it already exists. So really what we're doing is taking something that already exists and we're setting it up so that it's reused instead of having something to find 10 different places. And I'm just tapping over here. The demo is not done yet, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of 8 of these things are already done running. And the reason I'm showing you that, I revisit it later, is that what someone really needs to do is take these demos that are running, recreate the demo, which you've got these very simple instructions for doing that on the website, and then you take the templates you've already got and plug them into our demos to replace what replace what are in the demos. And then basically you've got a new orchestration system for the storage or the database or messaging queue or microservices or whatever it is. And at that point, it's a much shorter cycle. And then you iterate, and at what point do you define being done? You know, because iteration goes on forever.
Right, new releases.
The domain-specific language is simple, and it's designed to remain really, really simple, because ultimately what an appliance is it's a collection of systems. One of these buckets, there are 8 buckets I showed you of an enterprise architecture. And each one of the buckets might be a collection of systems. So here we've got an example of 2. one on the left, and then one on the right. Each one of these systems might have a collection of different types of services. Each type of service might have more than one instance, one or more instances, and there might be a collection of things that are shared by all the different types of services that you might put in the foundation. And those types of things might be shared networking or image templates or other types of stuff. And the domain specific language is really as simple as this. I can show you some templates, noodling around the website, showing you how to recreate the demo in a bit, but the domain specific language basically boils down to this. And the command line interface basically boils down to these 5 commands with on-off switches. Plus there's a 6th, which is setup. Setup takes everything that's required, all the different repositories, defining all the different types of systems, and pulls them from wherever they are in your ecosystem, and pulls them onto the agent or pulls them onto your laptop dev box if you're working in a laptop, whatever it is. The setup pulls it all in, and then you can run one of these things. Like for example, there's an appliance on and an appliance off, and that creates or destroys this entire appliance. And that's what the demo is doing. It's running appliance on, and then it's running setup on, appliance off, and then setup off for each of these 8 different demos that are running now. Then there's these other things, like for example, if you just want to turn the foundation of a particular appliance on, you can do foundation on, or if you want to destroy it, you can do foundation off. If you want to hit all of the services for a particular system and have them all go on, you just type in services on, and to destroy them all, services off. And then for a particular service type, if you want to hit all the instances of that particular service type, you can hit service type on or service type off to destroy them, on to create, and then off to destroy. And the same thing with an instance of a particular service type. You can turn that on with this simple 3-word command, or you can turn it off by switching to off instead of on. And obviously there are some flags. If you're hitting up the foundation of a system, you gotta say which system it is. If you're hitting up a service type, you gotta say which system it is and which service type. And if you're hitting up an instance, you gotta say which system, which service type, and what instance. But all that stays on one line, so they're really one-liner commands. And that's the CLI. And the intention again is to make this super easy to be able to deploy multiple systems across the whole enterprise really quickly with a lot less work, so that you're able to free up engineering dollars to be able to do more use cases. And I have the demo to show you, and then I can noodle around the website, which is basically a bunch of questions. But does anyone have any questions or observations while we're done the slides here?
I have
All right.
one.
Go ahead.
If we can go back to slide number 9.
Sure.
Now, this command line tool, how do I, for instance, figure out what list of services are available for a running appliance?
Sure. You go here. I can show you. It's in this file right here.
Right, but the natural way I think is, here's a command line tool. The command line tool can load in the file implicitly, but it should also have okay, how do I traverse the tree? Because the things like 4 and 5 are sort of like going down the nodes of that tree, but I would like to know what those nodes were. I mean, that's just the way I think, and I think maybe other users would think that way too.
Yeah, and I'd like to get more feedback from you about exactly what you're talking about. This is a
Well, for instance, you say service type, right?
Yeah.
How do I know, should there be an ACM services list or its equivalent?
That's a good idea. So I'll put ACM services list, and I can show you. Let me get to, oh, these are done. So let me get to some place to show you this here. Let me go over here and I will take you through some stuff that's more general, but I want to answer your question, and trying to answer your question is at this link. And I'm basically taking you down into how someone gets to see everything. And essentially, this is what the demos are doing, but to the point is I'm going to take you to where these repositories are that are getting hit up by the demo. And I'm going to do it in a way that I can see. So there's something on the top of the screen. Here we go. This particular piece of this particular appliance is defined with this acm.yaml, and at the highest level, the systems are labeled here. But more to your point, within the systems, you have these templates, and this is a setup file that tells the setup on what to do, where to go get things. And one of the things it's got in here is all the system templates. And you can see in this case, go ahead.
I mean, it's complicated, right? So do you have some sort of validation tooling in ACM, Agile Cloud Management? Like there's a mistake in the setup config like YAML. Do you have tooling that will say there's a mistake here, fix this part?
Yeah, the idea is that shows up in the logging, and
okay.
that's I mean, this is an agile project, so it iterates on a day-to-day and week-to-week process.
Right.
And so there's new things, and if you want particular things that are not currently in here to be added, you know, there's a great interest in getting feedback. I was just showing you that your request about where do you find out, for example, all the different service types. Well, it's very simple. This particular system template is only 45 lines, and you're able to see for this one, there's one type of service, and for this one, there's one instance. And you know, getting it to running a list is easy enough to do. That would not take much time and energy, but it's also not that hard to find. And there's also a way to how should I say this? There's a way to.
I can do it myself. I'm just saying that I've found it useful to either enhance CLIs or create other CLIs to do that for me. Because I guess I'm migraine, at least organizational or workflow migraine sensitive.
There's also every Wednesday at noon Pacific, we have a meeting for anybody who wants to work on this tool. So if someone's using it and they've got ideas for how to make it easier for them to use it, we're really interested in anyone who wants to step in and you know, add something that's going to make their life easier. And that's something someone can sign up for a couple ways. One is they can fill out the contact form and you know, specify their interest that way, and another is just to hit me up on LinkedIn with you know, my name and the company name.
Okay.
Yeah,
but
the ACM CLI tool, that looks familiar and intuitive, right? Because in setting things up for programming, you're using system control, the Unix system control, right? And so
like the system D crap. Okay.
What?
It's the system D, you know, command line tool.
Sure, yeah, it's the system D interface, right?
Yes.
Right. So you have your system control commands: start, stop, restart, list services, right?
List status or something, or status.
Or show status, right? So
yes.
That's very intuitive.
Yeah, yeah. It's a tree, right? And there should be stuff to traverse the nodes at a level in the tree. That's sort of, if stuff is going to consume a tree, one of those nice things, like the systemd stuff, like system control, would be stuff to traverse, parts of that tree. But yeah.
You're bringing up some things I'm not answering because they're works in progress. There's an ongoing development of this tool, and some of the things I'm pointing to are things that are right here, and other things that are things that are in development that I'm just on purpose not elaborating upon, because they're they're items that'll be announced when a release is done.
Okay.
But this is great, and I would invite and encourage you to be a part of working on this if you want to noodle around with it. And if you find there's something that would make your life easier, then I just want you to know it's very welcome. On the website, to recreate these demos I'm showing you, there's this tab for the engineering link, and then inside there's a getting started for engineers. And I took you over to the DevBox one to get the links to the granular code, but really the fastest and easiest way to get this working is to do the GitHub demo, which is what defaults here. And you start by cloning a GitHub repository that I've shown you before. Then you assemble the values that are required. There's this meta level of a keys file and a config file, and they enable you to be able to run this many different ways. Each system template can be run in many places in the enterprise because you're sending a configuration in. And I haven't shown you that, but I will in this. And then you put the config and the secret values into 4 new multi-line secrets in GitHub, which just gives you instructions, but I'll skip that because I want to keep this in our time frame. And then you run all 8 demos like I've shown you. And this is simple cloning the repo. I'm going to right click on this, and I'll show you it's the same repository where these actions are run. So over here, this is where the 8 demos were. I started at the beginning of this, and they're all done and they're all completed properly. Then you assemble the values for your keys.yaml and your config.yaml, and they're in this config files generator.py. And I could right click on it, but it's probably easier to show you so that you see it's the same place. It's right here. If you click on that, you'll go right here. And it's this file when you clone this. And you run that, and you want to run that twice. What it's going to do each time you run it is it's going to create a config.yaml that has the 30 fields that are required, and 27 of them are going to have pre-built values for you. So you only need to come up with 3 values for those.
I would just, I could do a pull request to this. It looks like some of this stuff can be templated. You're writing to a YAML, correct? Keys.yaml and config.yaml?
Yeah.
There's a YAML.dump, I think, that could maybe convert the dictionary into a YAML file. That might be an interesting thing to do to give to a more junior, I guess, developer.
Mm-hmm. And
I'm just looking at the code right now. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is designed to make it super easy for someone. So, for example, the work then that's involved in getting this set up once that's cloned is to get the keys, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 things. But really, you probably, let me tap away from this. You probably do not need these 2 because for the demos you're using public repositories. So it's really 6 of these and 3 from the config file. So maybe 9 things to 11 at most. And I'll show you how to get those, but there are some articles in here that are detailed instructions how to set up your Azure credentials and how to set up your AWS credentials. This one.
I guess I would say also those
Yeah.
should, instead of being in quotes, they should probably be links too. You know,
Yeah,
you click on
you're
it, it
right.
goes-
And they are links, they're just not right there.
Okay,
And then once you've got all that, you put the secrets into your GitHub and you run all 8 of them. And let me take a step back to your point. Engineering here. Here's your setup Azure seed credentials.
okay,
And it's basically, you know, screenshots of all the steps that are required. And then your AWS seed credentials, same thing, step-by-step screenshots. And I don't know, because I haven't timed just that segment, but I would bet someone could spend a total of an hour between the 2 clouds and get all the stuff that they need. And then that's going to bring you to, you've run these demos, and it's going to bring you to these pieces where I'm putting these as prerequisites, but I'm letting you know the logging exists, and I'm pointing out to it, but I'll maybe explain it while we're here to be time efficient, which is here's this Terraform Packer example, and the logs that are created here for this job. You had provision the machine, then you had the setup on, you had the appliance on and the appliance off and the setup off. And I'm going to go into appliance on. And when you scroll down, you're going to see these things in the logs that this document let's see, third from the right, I was pointing out here, this document of locating the logs, this thing here, it's explaining what I'm going to show you, which is the first thing you notice is to the left, there's a statement of the tool that's producing the log. And then at various points, you're going to see this change taxonomy. And there's a machine readable definition of a workflow that's created when you run a command like appliance on. And then that's followed by a combination human / machine readable version of the same thing, where it just takes every one of those pieces and puts them one at a time on its own line to make it easier. And then underneath these, for this one's fairly complex, so let's let this fill up. There we go. Underneath these, if I scroll down, there's going to be the human readable. And it's the same thing where there are lots of different change in here. And if there's 50 of these, there are going to be 50 places in this. And the human readable tells you the status of every single element of the hierarchy that's created. And you're noticing this is very simple, very similar to the domain specific language. It's telling you what did not change, what the current status is, what did change. And then it summarizes back here at the bottom saying that the only thing that happened here was the overall status change from started to in process. And you go through those workflow steps. I think this one might have 50 of them. And most of them are going to have other stuff between them. But when we get down here, we'll start to get into places where you're going to see other stuff between them. And because these first things are starting layers that here we go. And this is starting to tell you that we're done with that. And now we're going to run a shell command where preprocessors run that I haven't told you about. And then you're going to have, you know, the ACM does something and there's an Azure CLI command. And the point is when you're trying to noodle down into what's actually been, when you're trying to noodle down into what's actually happening, you're able to figure out exactly where in the workflow there's a problem. For example, if cloud provider is taking too long to run something, or if you put in the wrong credentials and the credentials don't work and that lack of the proper credential throws an error, you can find out exactly where in the workflow the error is thrown. You can find out exactly which command was run just before it. And that's going to give you context on what was going on with the error. And that's the high level summary of this. I guess there's one other thing I show you, which is in addition to doing those demos, you can also just download the the app itself, and you see there's a Linux version and there's a Windows version, and downloading them is as simple as clicking these links. And I think it takes about 40 milliseconds or something to download these. And if you're a security person, you get the checksum of it. That's the official checksum here. And then there's a PowerShell command that's a single line to do what this Python script does. But if you want to use Python, you just use this simple script here to check the official checksum against the checksum of what you just downloaded to confirm it's the right thing. That's my presentation. If you're interested, you can hit me up on LinkedIn. And if you want to, contribute to the project, that's something you're welcome to do as well. Does anyone have any questions at this point? Your comments, suggestions?
Yeah, we got some newcomers. Rahul and Aurelie came in. Any questions on that? All right, well, Jim, I'm going to follow up with you on links for this so that when we get the YouTube out, people will have some things to reference. Obviously, this thing will blast out through all the social media channels. This is awesome, though. It kind of makes sense. It's not surprising to hear that there's a whole bunch of, left hand is not communicating with the right at all. I've seen it myself at a pretty high level. So I hope you get some business off this. Pretty cool.
Well, I will stop. Oh, not a new share. I want to stop sharing is what I was trying to do. So I'm gonna get rid of this and I'll share stop share, and I'll give back to you, sir.
All right. Well, thanks again, Jim. Look forward to the next update, whatever that may be. No pressure. All right, Tanim, your smoke test went through. Ready to demo your thing?
Yeah, I could do that. You might be noticing this parrot. That's
Twinkles is
not an
getting in there.
effect. She's really there. All right, let's see if I can do the share meeting. Let's do, how the heck do I share? It's one of the, okay, so I am in the
The green
Zoom.
one.
The green, oh, okay, so, there it is, share screen. Let me just see if this thing will work. All right, I'm gonna just share the one thing, and let's see, do you see this thing says test RST email PyRVA 2002-2023?
Yep, looking good. Font's a little small.
All right.
You want to zoom that in?
I'm zooming it in. So yeah.
Oh, much better. Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna even make it bigger. There's a new command line tool I did to simplify the sending of emails and setting up a default SMTP server to send the emails and a default identity to send the emails called simple email config, which has a lot of stupid settings, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to just show a few of them because, I guess you guys might not want to go into a deep dive. It's just a way of simplifying the thing that I show or demonstrated last month. So for instance, you want to show all the email aliases you have. Let me just show the help there. Okay, it's gotten so big. I'm going to show you, okay. If you do the hide aliases because you don't want to show everybody, who these people really are, this one's fine, this one's fine, this one's fine. But, Woody H _ SacPy and Robert, yours, I hope you don't mind if I send the demo email again to you guys.
That's
No.
But in this case, the improvement I've also made in simple email is you can specify recipients not only by the full email address, like name, then email, or just email, but also by their aliases. And so that's the thing I'm going to show a little later on. So let's go back to the other things. This is going to be the
I think we'd all want more hip aliases, though.
hip alias. Okay, fine. I guess I could do a change alias or add alias and remove the bad aliases. Yes, I'm fine with that. What would you like to be, Robert?
So I'm Dr.
Something-
Flask. Everybody knows that.
All right. I don't want to, change it right here because it would, show your email address. So,
Oh, okay.
But
Yeah,
I
don't do that.
so I'll go to a show me. I'm fine with you guys seeing, yes, this is who I am. And in fact, this would be the default email address to use when sending email. Uh-oh, there she is being cute again. Okay. And the final thing is show SMTP, which is the default settings of the SMTP server used to send this email address. It looks funky as shit, right? Port 32.398 and localhost is because I actually have an SSH tunnel set up connecting port 32.398 on this machine, the one where I'm sharing the screen, to port 25 on my machine upstairs, my server upstairs. All right, I guess she's getting frisky because it is getting towards her bedtime. All right, and on with the show. Simple email. I'll show this big thing again. I actually have to change the sort of, I guess, documentation as well as the help screen. But all that stuff there, I think it says the sender. Now it has the default information. Default is blah for the sender. The default is this port for the SMTP server and this server name for the SMTP server name. Whereas before it was like localhost port 25. This one actually consumes configuration data for those defaults that are demonstrated in simple email config. And with that, let me see if, let me go through the aliases again. And here we go, Woody H and Robert E, right? Okay, let's go through this.
Yeah, that was a good profile of Twinkles there.
I figure, yes. So you guys are a little less bored right now? Okay.
You're more colorful than I'm used to. Amazing.
Yeah, Twinkles would make a good
and
alias
let's do
for
a
you.
new operation. Woody H, SacPy, Robert _E. And I'm not going to do the info because that spews out everybody's email addresses.
Okay.
Okay. And that's pretty much it. You want to wait a few seconds. Woody, Robert, see if something came
Go
through.
check the email. Okay.
I'm refreshing madly.
I know it took a while because there's like a 4 megabyte GIF, animated GIF in there that has to go through the internets. That's got to be processed and going through the internets.
Oh,
So
I got mine.
here.
Looking
got
good.
yours.
Law tech, X Files jokes.
I need to hook it up so that
COVID
it says
stuff.
"You got mail" when I get a new
Yeah.
email.
You got
I-
mail.
I think I sent it to a Gmail address, so I don't know if that means anything.
So I have 2 Gmail. So I've got a, well, it's not that much of a secret. I got Accelerator Cloud and I've got RG 4242.
I think I went to the Accelerator Cloud one, so if that's the wrong one, sorry about that.
I still don't see it yet. Well, maybe it's under social.
Oh, there you go. But I just sent a few technical emails today using this functionality, using one of the aliases as the recipient. And this was at work. So, you know, I am sort of, I do like to eat my own dog food. So Robert, sorry about that. Maybe,
yeah, it didn't show up under inbox, didn't show up under spam, and it didn't show up under.
yeah, so It might be useful, it might not. You know, like any demo, it works half the time, it works all the time.
Yeah, you pretty much proved that. I got mine. Roberts is lost in the mail somewhere.
I might have sent it, I'm gonna stop sharing and it's probably, I might have, you know, it's entirely possible I used the wrong email address for you.
Yeah, no worries.
But half the time it works all the time. I know that at work I actually use different server settings and different identities. And yeah, it looks like it appears for me. In fact, I'm seeing one of the functionalities of this is an implicit BCC. The implicit BCC is my actually recipient's you know, sender email address or identity. So that's pretty much it. It's basically the old tool with a little enhancement.
Cool.
But at least it's less typing and less chance for errors because I can specify aliases and I don't have to explicitly specify a sender anymore. It'll use the default identity to send emails, and I don't have to specify a, you know, SMTP server explicitly. It will use the default SMTP server settings. So less typing, less chance for obvious errors.
Very cool. Well, it's always fun to see the updates on it. Looking forward to the next one. All right, so
Next one might be like pigments, using the Python pigments module to change the coloration of the, you know, HTML, the code blocks and the formulas and things like that. But
nice. Yeah, I've been thinking I need to start getting a newsletter out for one of these projects. I might actually end up using your email thing for it.
yeah. Feel free to hit me up and, you know, I can help you make something that looks okay. That's all I can promise.
Hey, okay, it's better than nothing.
There you go.
That's a start anyway. All right, well, last time we met, we added a meme review. I've been a big fan of Reddit's subreddit called Programmer Humor, and it's been pretty funny. One of the things is occasionally there will be, you know, a week or so where they get caught on a particular meme and people either going about things in a highly convoluted fashion or hilariously hard-coded or just intentionally wrong to try to troll people or something. Last time we went over supposedly some Dutch app that had to do with, you know, some government function, IDs or something like that, was using some silly way to code a loading bar. So this month is odd. So is odd's pretty simple. It's like a built-in function, but the idea was just to build one, you know, for your own purposes, or in this case, to get ChatGPT to make one. So ChatGPT says, do modulus arithmetic here, get 0 because 0 is false, 1 is true. Pretty good. I like this one. Convert it to binary, and then if it ends with 1, it's odd. Otherwise, it's false. I think this one's, I know we're a Python meetup, but this one's C, right? C or C++ or something. But return a bool. And then same thing, modulus arithmetic. Thought that was pretty funny. All right, I'm gonna code one real quick.
But that one's wrong.
Is it? Let's try it.
Yeah, because it's you have to convert it to a Boolean by seeing if it's equal to 0. Or
Well,
if
Boolean's
it's equal
a
to
0 or 1, right? basically.
It's either, okay, so you're going by truthy or falsy.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so modulus arithmetic either returns 1 or 0, right? I think it works. I'm sure there's ways it could break.
But
All right, so
what does Jim
I had
think
a-
about that kind of coding?
Yeah, what do you think?
Who are you asking?
Our
So-
guest tonight, Jim Slavin.
So, so instead of checking to see if it's equal to 0 or 1, it just returns the numeric value and is kind of implicitly casting that as a bool. But that seems, I don't know, that seems like bad form to me.
Oh wait, I did that wrong. It works, right? Modulus evens are spitting out zeros, odds are spitting out ones. I think it works.
And now use the bool cast function to
Oh,
show us
yeah,
what
so-
bool 0 is and bool 1 is.
Oh, okay. Wait, bool 0.
Bool, type
okay.
bool, parenthesis 0, close.
Yeah, as
Right,
long as
round
long
it
as
to
1
same.
is equal to true in that
we go.
language, then you're fine.
Sure.
Well, you can do it the other way around. You can now type int and use the int cast. So int brackets true and int brackets false. When I say brackets, I mean parentheses. You were right, Woody. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. Cool. I didn't know that one. It's a good one.
So they're interchangeable. I mean, in the old days, we used to use either binary digits or integers in exactly this manner, but Python's now come along with true and false as built-in, so that's nice.
All right. Oh man, what's going on here? Where's my even? Let's go like that. Okay, so I did a coding interview recently, and they wanted me to do something with like the number of places, and then to figure a thing out based on the leading number and the trailing number. So highest, whatever, millions place or something like that, and then the ones place, and then add them up. And so they had me run through a number of different ways to do it. And one of them was to use, what is it when, all right, so if you got number, and then instead of doing the modulus, you do that, what's that operator called?
Div mod. You can try div mod.
Div mod, okay.
Try that div mod of, number div mod 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10. Try that.
Wait, like that? Or are you saying
No,
this is-
div mod. It takes 2 arguments, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 10.
Oh, that's cool. That's a good one. Let's see, what did they do? Yeah, they wanted me to do something like that, so I thought it'd be a funny one to use a loop. So it'd be like while number is greater than what, 1 or something like that. Oh, where are we? Man, there we go. Okay,
Okay.
and then when we're done, print
Number.
bool number. Okay, so then is odd. Yeah, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh no. Let me go through the same thing. Oh no, what have I done? Did I break it? I broke it. Invalid syntax
You needed
error.
to type a blank line after the while loop.
Ah, there we go. Wait. Oh, that's because number is now 1. No. You. Yeah, that's right. Let's run it back. That's not. Oh, maybe that one didn't matter. Oh well. Anyway.
Print number.
Do I go like this maybe? Oh wait, no, that's right. I need to restore the value of number. Should this be 0? Maybe it should. Okay, cool. Go like this. Oh, I didn't share my whole screen. Like that. Where are we? Oh, where even is now? It's probably on the desktop. What's here? Oh, there we go. In there? Yeah, okay, there we go. Hey, is that even accurate? I don't think that's accurate. I gave it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, apparently that's not a good way to go about it. Anyway, I'm just being silly here. See what next month says. But yeah, well, Jim, once again, thanks for showing up and showing us what the latest is in the ACM world. I'm excited to see what you guys end up calling your what is it, appliance foundation service, and then the like whatever service instant service setup or something. If you guys ever come up with an interesting name for that, I feel like that could be a book or something, like the Agile Cloud Manager methodology.
The manifesto.
Oh yeah, there we go. Cloud manifesto. Ooh. And
Maybe an
Tanim,
angry cloud with frowny eyebrows, right?
next, yeah, next year maybe. And Tanim, thank you as always for your updates. It's always cool to see your show and tell.
It's sort of a demo for actually giving this tooling to the PyRVA meetup next Wednesday. So if you want coordinates to that, I could just send that to you. It's sort of in our afternoon, their evening.
RVA.
Richmond, Virginia.
Oh, that'd be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, feel free to drop that in the Slack or in the Discord
Okay.
or any of the other social media channels, which pick your poison.
All right. Yes, all of them.
Perfect. Yeah, right. We're all about blasting. All right. Well, before we sign off, I want to give anyone who has something they're inspired to share, whether you got like a show and tell or maybe you got some announcements. Tanim, well, I guess you kind of got ahead of me on that one. RVA's got its thing, so sharing that off. Appreciate that. Deanne, you usually have interesting stuff coming up. What's the latest from Auckland?
Our meeting in 2 Thursdays' time will be on the New Zealand cloud provider. the name is Catalyst Cloud. So we've got their CEO, managing director, whatever he is, coming to give us a talk. He will be talking about digital sovereignty, which will be quite different to the US situation. But then we're hoping to hear a bit about how they use Python to manage their cloud and how we can use Python to access their cloud. And they're using Red Hat. It's OpenShift, I think. There you go.
All right.
And
How do we slide
first
Agile Cloud
first
Manager?
Thursday, excuse me, sorry, what did you say again?
Oh, I was just wondering, how do we slide Agile Cloud Manager into that space?
Jim turns up and gives a lecture.
Perfect. But I interrupted. Please carry on.
No, I was just going to say the first Thursday of next month, whatever date that is, will be a coding evening. So if you guys would like to turn up, you'd be most welcome.
All right. And you're ahead of us there. So you're in the US, that'll be Wednesday, right?
No, that's why I
we'll
said
be behind.
Thursday. Thursday
Okay.
Pacific time.
Okay.
And
you're adjusting.
the meeting starts at 21:30 Pacific, 9:30 in the evening Pacific on a.
Oh, okay. Perfect. So it'll be
sorry, Woody, you're correct. You're correct. It's 9:30 on a Tuesday evening Pacific time.
Wait, you're not 2 days ahead of us, are you?
The meeting. Now you're really confusing everybody now. Yeah, our meeting is our time is Wednesday. Your time is Tuesday.
Gotcha.
We're a day ahead of you. You see, we're really fast.
Right. Yeah. Because the date line's out there in the Pacific. Okay, cool. So Tuesday our time, Wednesday in Auckland.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Well, please, same thing as Tanim. Feel free to share in whatever channels you choose. Feel free to choose them all.
Thank you.
All right. Well, anyone else? Or should we call it for the night? All right. Well, thanks everyone. If you didn't catch it, oh wait, no, never mind. Someone just said no thanks in the chat. I thought we had some links there. But yeah, this will get published on YouTube shortly after this. I'll post it out in the comms channels. And Jim, let's talk on LinkedIn and we'll make sure we get all the proper links in there for you.
Great, thank you.
All right. Well, have a good one. See you guys all in a month.
Cheers, gents.
Thanks.
Cheers.
See you guys.
Bye.